Welcome to HCS Talks. I am your host, Superintendent of Hampton City Schools, Raymond Haynes. Welcome to Season 2 of HCS Talks, the Hampton City Schools podcast. Our aim is to educate, inform, and even entertain both our community and listeners beyond. Each episode will explore diverse topics, including education, student achievement, the contributions of our teachers, support staff, parents, and community partners, as well as programs and initiatives. There's something valuable and informative for everyone, so we hope you will join us and keep tuning in to HCS Talks. Today, I have the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Syreeta Cason, our Director of Student Services. One of the areas Dr. Cason works with is truancy. Truancy refers to a student's unexcused and habitual absence from school without valid reasons. It is a significant issue because consistent attendance is vital to a student's academic success and personal development. So Dr. Cason is here today to discuss why attendance is extremely important. So welcome, Dr. Cason, and thank you for joining us today on HCS Talks. Before we dive into the questions in particular, please share with the listening audience a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with Hampton City Schools and perhaps the various positions that you have held prior to becoming the Director of Student Services.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Well, I am a Hampton City School graduate. I'm a proud Bruin, graduated class of 1995. I started as an employee with Hampton City Schools in 2007. Started my career as a school counselor. I was at Thomas Eaton. Then I went on to Phoenix when they opened back in 2010. After being at Phoenix, I went to Kecoughtan High School as the graduation specialist. And now I'm going into my fourth year in this role as Director of Student Services.
So your various experiences having served as a school counselor and you said graduation specialist?
Yes.
And then in this role as Director of Student Services, it's like all of those experiences have helped to shape you in terms of providing the best service and insight and ensuring that our young people either stay on track or get back on track for graduation, and of course, walking across that stage, the portrait of a Hampton graduate.
Absolutely.
We all know that attendance is probably the most critical piece of ensuring that our young people are going to be successful. If they aren't in school, then it adversely impacts their ability to grasp skills and concepts, and we'll talk a little bit more about the impact it has on social, emotional well-being as well. So explain from your perspective as Director of Student Services and your various roles as well, the impact of attendance and how important school attendance is.
School attendance is important because it is linked academically to the student's well-being, how they do academically. Research has shown that a student that misses just 2 days a month of school will be more likely to be 5 times behind in their academics. And as they continue to matriculate, imagine being 5 times behind in reading, 5 times behind in math. It sets them up for failure. So attendance is one of the most easiest basic things that parents can do to ensure that their children are on track. There's other factors, but let's get them to school so that we can make sure they're in school and they're learning with their peers so that we can keep them moving on accordingly.
Excellent. Can you give any specific reasons why absences matter?
Like we just mentioned, and you mentioned in your opening, it's just vital to their academic overall health and well-being. Again, students learn up in their primary years, they learn to read. Then in third grade is where they start reading to learn. So if they've been truant in those early days, then they've already been set up for failure. And coming to school every day, positive attendance, make sure it's just one way of many that we can make sure that they're on the best track academically those early days so that we can get them to the across the stage portrait of a Hampton graduate.
Excellent. So how, from your standpoint, how many absences are too many?
Even a few absences can be too many. We are a school division that attends 180 days, so our magic number is 18. Students that miss 18 days are deemed chronically absent, and the terms truancy and chronically absenteeism sometimes are used interchangeably, but they are two different terms. Truancy refers to the days that they miss from school that are unexcused. Chronic absentee students are the students that have missed days, and they could be excused and unexcused. And those excused days are equally important because we want to know why they're missing school, and is there some reason that we can help support? Is it a situation where we need to look at homebound? So those days are equally important when they have missed 18 days or more of the school year.
I'm glad you brought that up, the difference between being chronically absent and truant. The chronically absent student also entails even excused absences, right?
That is correct.
And truancy means you're just not coming for, regardless of the reason.
That's right.
And most of the time that it's unexcused absences,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that chronic absenteeism plays a part in a school's overall accreditation.
Yes.
Right? State Department says what in regards to accreditation?
For the state, it's again 18 is the number. We are very proud of where we are as far as our attendance for a school division.
Right.
We are under 15%, which correlates directly into our on-time graduation rate. We have a really positive on-time graduation rate, low dropout rate, and it correlates directly to the work that we do around students missing schools.
And all of our schools, my understanding, are at a level 1 status for
Absolutely
addressing this absenteeism. So we are continuing to move in the right direction and
Absolutely.
have systems and structures and support in place. So why do you feel some students have bad attendance?
It could be a lot of reasons we've seen over the years. Sometimes it's just family struggles, the transportation, mental health, like I mentioned earlier, maybe there's a need for homebound. As students get older, we see it's more about lack of engagement. Also, sometimes when students start to get older, middle school, high school, the parents are like, okay, they're old enough to get themselves to school. Sometimes they may stay home, they've missed a bus, and then it just becomes a habit that they fall into. So as they get older, it's more of they start to become disengaged, and they just feel like I can do this from home, or I can. And, in 2020, we told everyone to keep your kids home. So they're like, well, we were home during COVID. Why can't I stay home now?
Right.
The little ones, it's more related to family problems going on within the family. For the lower grades is what we primarily see there.
So what resources or measures does the Hampton City Schools have in place to sort of combat or provide support for families who are truant or young people who are chronically absent?
So we have great systems in place. We work very well with the city. Some of our schools have base workers. Base workers are they're employed by the city of Hampton, and they work in some of our Title I schools to provide resources and support. Not all of our schools have base workers, but for the schools that don't, if a student is in a place where they've missed 5 or more unexcused absence, then we will have a collaborative action plan. And that is for the family and the school to come up with a partnership and get a better understanding so that we know what kind of resources they need, how we can help. And then, we need to bring in outside agencies to help. I work very closely with the other departments that fall under my director, Ms. Trina Hatcher. So I work very closely with school counseling department, school social work department, and the nurses. Again, I mentioned the school social workers because sometimes families may find themselves displaced. Dr. Copeland's office has a wealth of support and resources to help our young people. So we work very closely with those offices once we know the needs of the students so we can determine how we can best support them.
I mean, it's a true collaborative effort. You talked about the partnership with the city and a collaboration with the school counselors, the school nurses, school social workers, everyone reading from the same sheet of music and can't leave out the importance of connecting with the school, their classroom teachers, the administrators as well, because oftentimes there may be some things that are going on in those homes that, collectively we can put together a system of support to ensure they get back on the right track.
Thank you for mentioning classroom teachers because for elementary, they're the first persons to recognize a child is not in school.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of times, their family may be communicating with the teacher or the child may tell the teacher while they're out. So teachers are definitely first line of support, especially for our younger students.
And Dr. Cason, we certainly are not advocating for a young person to come to school if he or she is actually ill.
That's correct.
But we certainly want to make certain that if, in fact, that is the case, we provide opportunities for them to stay on track in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the work, whether it's reading or even math. We know that's all a process. You're missing days of math instruction, and we
Mm-hmm.
know math skills build upon one another. Then we certainly don't want to put our young people at a disadvantage if, in fact, there is a legitimate reason why they are out of school.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that you mentioned math. We had a situation where a young student who was a self-proclaimed math expert, he loved math. And then when he started being truant, his teacher said that he started to say he hated math. And it wasn't that he really hated it. He just no longer understood like he used to because of the time that he was missing from
Right.
school.
So he had some gaps because
Yes.
he was missing some critical components of the instruction. We also know that the case in missing school can affect a student's academic success. Well, we know that. I shouldn't say also, but can attendance also affect a student's social life?
Absolutely. School is not just about academics, like you said. It's also important for the students' social skills and for them to form friendships, especially at the little ones. You know, they have their brothers, sisters, cousins, but this is when they start to interact with other young people in their peer group right there in the classrooms. It also helps them to learn how to navigate relationships outside of their family. So it is more than just about the academics. It's also about that social emotional learning, their self-esteem, and their sense of belonging.
That sense of belonging we know is important as well when we're talking about the connection between home and school. That lends itself to young people being absent as well. They don't feel connected to the school or a trusted adult or adults that they can go and talk to. That sometimes lead to the truancy aspect or chronically being absent as well. So, can you suggest some ways to improve attendance?
Definitely, parents and family members, they play a vital role in ensuring good academic success. So we want the parents to start setting up positive routines and patterns, having conversations with the classroom teachers, parents staying in close contact with the teachers and support staff at the school. And again, once we find out why the child is not attending school, then make some supports around that, develop some support, some plans around that. And like you said, that sense of belonging, make sure school is a place they want to be, that they enjoy being with their classroom teacher, they enjoy being with their peers. So it's a collaborative approach to get the child to school and to come back every day.
Right. Not just show up, but come back consistently as well. So, how can parents and family members help with attendance or partner with their child's school to assist with attendance matters?
They can set positive examples, prioritizing education, and again, maintaining regular routines. Um, if they need to talk about, okay, tomorrow's Monday, this is going to be your schedule, this is your resource, and outline what this looks like, even day by day, as they just start to try to establish routines and patterns for the young people. Those breaks, sometimes when they get those long breaks during the winter months, our winter break, when it's time to start going back, start talking about, okay, we're headed back to school. We're looking forward to our teachers. We're looking forward to our friends. And again, just being an example of making sure that they get there and get there on time.
Setting that positive example. Have you experienced situations, and I'm sure you have, where parents are saying, I just can't get him or her to go to school, despite my efforts to ensure I express the importance of education. It's just not working. And what are your thoughts or suggestions or resources around that?
Unfortunately, we have seen that, again, more so with our middle and high school students. We're excited that we do have some additional support hands in our office. We have an enrollment engagement specialist. We have two of them. They do go out and they do the one-on-one individual home visits with the young people to try to find out what motivates them, so that we can try to help with the better path for them. Getting them connected with communities, community members, community partners, mentors within the community that can help them help themselves, if that makes sense.
Yes.
We've often talked about, not today, but just in conversation about the academies, getting them excited about the academies. We want to get you to high school so you can go into the Academy of Public Law and Safety. You want to go into the Architect Academy. You want to go to entrepreneurship, but we got to get them there. So, graduation specialists are instrumental at the high school level, because sometimes it takes a little bit more individualized conversations to get those young people motivated and re-engaged.
A lot of good human resources that you mentioned. I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned a base work or base workers, particularly in our Title I schools. What exactly does a base worker do, and how does a parent reach out to them for support, and what support would they be able to provide?
So our base workers, they are actually employed by the city of Hampton. They are social workers. And again, they're in our Title I schools. During the first week of school, parents will receive notification from the base worker just saying, this is who I am, and I'm here to be off avenue of support. So it's almost an automatic. And they help with various community resources and connections. Again, they help us get to the root of why the child is not coming to school, and that level of support is based on why they're not coming to school. Is it problem with transition? Is it stable housing? And they have some direct connections in the communities. So they're a great resource that we have. We're excited that we have them and that we're continuing this partnership with having the base workers.
Excellent. So I know we mentioned the other resources with the enrollment engagement specialists, of course, graduation specialists at the high school, school counselors, school social workers, classroom teachers. Are we still connected in any way, shape, or form to other resources outside of Hampton City Schools, say the Community Services Board,
Yes.
and what role do they play in all of that?
Yes. So if a child continues to be truant after a collaborative action plan has been implemented by the school, when they come to our level, we have what we call a TRT, Truancy Response Team meeting, and CSB is at the table at that meeting. There's some mental health needs that aren't being met, and then they can work directly with whichever counselors at that meeting, so they can get them set up. Again, because we want to address whatever needs aren't being met to make sure that they're coming to school.
Right.
Healthy Families is another partnership that we have that we work very closely with. Where they're at the table when we have that meeting as well. And those meetings, there's quite a few people at the table. And again, it's kind of based on the needs. So a family may not have a need for a healthy family support worker, but they may have a need for a mental health or connection with CSB.
And then also just the overall awareness of families. If you get them at the table, these are some resources out in the community that you may not have been aware of that could provide additional support for you in ensuring that your child is able to get to school daily and on time. The other piece that I was thinking through in terms of the work that we have in place, I guess, is just the overall connection between the courts. Oftentimes we talk about courts and sometimes people have a negative connotation to that, but the courts also serve as a resource for us. I mean, it's not just getting them to that point where once it gets to the point where they are going to court, but it's also what the judges are able to provide. Again, just an additional anchor of support to stress the importance of coming to school. So talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. And we are very fortunate in the city of Hampton. We have a great working relationship with our city, Mayor Bunting and our chief, but also our courts when it comes to truancy. So, and when I talk with my Region 2 counterparts, we are one of the only ones that have this partnership. And if a child continues to be truant, what they're looking for is, has the parent done all that they can to make sure the child gets to school? It's not meant to be an automatic punitive type of situation. Additional supports may have to be ordered, unfortunately, if it's a time where the child continues to be truant. Again, we have a great partnership, and it reflects in our chronic absenteeism numbers and our on-time graduation rate. They tie very closely together.
Right. You can't say enough about that whole, when we talk about one community, one transformation, and that whole portrait of a Hampton graduate, it's the entire community buying into that. And what can we do to further support young people and their families to ensure they get the best from Hampton City Schools and they do exemplify what it means to be a Hampton graduate as well. So from your perspective, Dr. Cason, how does attendance impact middle school and high school?
Research has shown that most students that drop out had started formulating it in their mind around ninth grade. Now, we know they don't wake up as a freshman and say, I'm not going to attend school anymore. But when we look at their trajectory, they have been off track for a while to include their coming to school on a regular basis. So we want to make sure that we're supporting those young people early on when we see that they're not coming to school. What is their resistance to school, and how can we make it better? What connections can we make? One resource I failed to mention was the Office of Youth and Young Adult with the City of Hampton. They got, I believe it was 150 of our students, young students, employed over the summer. And again, just connecting those students to that office. Oftentimes we'll see young people, especially in high school, they just want to start making money. They want to start making their money. Well, and these are opportunities that they have with the city. What better resume builder to have than to have that you were, employed by the city at a young age and start to work on that. So middle and high school is where when it's more willful that they're deciding to come to school. So again, just pairing them with the right people and making school a place that they want to be.
That's just another, I think, impactful measure that we have in place if they are able to be employed with the city of Hampton, because they also have that mentor, I think, from that point on. If they worked in a particular department with an adult, and that whole "me I see is the me I'll be," it might spark a light in them to say, "Hey, I want to work for Parks and Recreation or Waterworks," whatever companies they're working with through the city as well. So can't say enough about the power and impact of having that adult mentor in their lives as well. So yeah, I know we mentioned middle and high. So what is your perspective or thought in regards to attendance in the lower grades and even preschool?
So preschool, we want to set the tone, right? We want to make sure that they know as early as preschool that, coming to school is a place to learn. It's a place to meet your friends. And we want to start setting the expectation. Most of the most truant high school students, chronic absence high school students, were also, unfortunately, very truant in the lower grades. So when we see those patterns, and, we want to start those conversations with the families and the young people, like, the importance of coming to school and being with your friends and being with your teachers. So we want the expectation to be set that you come to school every day on time. We want to set those expectations early. And
recognize the importance and value of education. And like you said, those patterns, they start very early on. So if we could put some measures in place to circumvent that, I think in the long run, you'll see the fruits of your labor in terms of young people staying on track and coming to school and graduating on time. So as we wrap up, Dr. Cason, is there anything else you would like to add?
I want to wish all the families and students a very successful academic year. And I want everyone to know that consistent attendance is one of those simplest yet most powerful ways that students are set on a path of success.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Dr. Cason, for being here today and highlighting the importance of attendance. I'm confident our listeners have gained, once again, valuable insight from our conversation. And to our listeners, remember, education is the most powerful tool you can use to change the world. As one community, one transformation, we will ensure academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes. We'll see you next week.
Listen to learn more about Hampton City Schools. New episodes of HCS Talks drop on Thursdays. Subscribe and listen to HCS Talks. HCS Talks is a Hampton City Schools production.